welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition, which sees the completion of the work on building the signal box, a new section for Elvenhome of 2 to watch, as I talk through some of the engaged layouts that I subscribe to. Tooltime tips is in here as well, and I also give you a little bit of a closer look at the Thompson Teaks that are rattling away behind me, and they're lovely looking things. So let's get straight on and go back to a few weeks to when I was beginning to complete the work on building the signal box. When we left the signal box at the end of the clip in the last video, I said that the next time you'd see it, the signal box would be complete, except for its roof. And indeed it is. That's the box, the main box itself. Make sure we keep you focused here. You can see the inside of the box is now in, the floor has gone in, and I think that the wood effect has worked pretty well. The frame is in, the signaling equipment is in, sitting on a 3mm square block, just to provide a base for it, as I mentioned in the last video. The chair is in for you can just see in the corner there. The clock is on the wall. The paper at the back that provides the wallpaper is good old-fashioned word table, using the same technique as I used to design the station buildings on Weathertop. You'd have to go back an awful long way to do that, but it's essentially, I'll put a link here to the where I described how I created that just using a word table, but it provides a quite nice wallpaper for the back of the box. The windows are in, and above and below are etched brass brick, soldier course bricks. They don't actually show up as much as I expected them to, but they do at least cap off the windows. The glass is in for the windows. I did put the little, you can just about see it. I'm not sure you can actually now I say that. Let's see if we can get a bit. You can just about see the plastic, if I push in about here, that's sticking up to push the parts of the window apart so that it sits properly. I have used, in my own inimitable way, it's not as good as Paul at Calgorm Hall did it, but I have used a weathering technique to create the grey of the box. So that is complete. There's nothing more to be done on that. But it's now doing the other bits to make the whole signal box thing complete. The first thing was to fabricate a roof, and here is my roof indeed, which is made out of 4 pieces of 1mm evergreen styrene card, obviously cut to shape and then put together. I was very pleased with this. I'm more than a little bit chuffed with myself working out the angles and everything to get this to fit so neatly together. Although using Plastic World, which is what I used to put this together, as some of you may know, Plastic World actually melts the plastic, and with a judicious bit of manipulation at the time that it's welding, it really helped soften these corners, which have then been sanded down. It's been painted black because I am going to stick on the York Model Rail slates, and one thing I've discovered with that kit is that if the thing underneath the slates is light, it will show through some of the splits between each of the slates, so you need a dark background so it doesn't show through. I'm debating whether I'll get away with being able to take a strip and run it all the way round. I fear that because of the way the angles will work, it will mean that the slates will run out of sequence. So although your first strip would be fine, your second one, which you would set obviously half a slate across so that they're not it's all lined up, would just run out of sequence as it goes round. The light is in and fixed with a piece of blue tack because I think that's all it needs. The cable will run down, I don't know if you can see this, there's a hole drilled, you can just see it now in the centre where I've just got it in shape. You can see it, the green board coming through. And I will probably use a tiny bit of blue tack to fix the cables inside. I don't think I need to do anything else because I'm really not sure you're going to see that much into the box after all. So that has been done, and that fits neatly, I'm pleased to say, on the top of the box, as you can see. If I put it into position, that's better. So I'm quite pleased with that. That needs a little bit, I just noticed a few white bits, so that needs a bit of paint. I have fabricated my stairs, which you may recall came in this kit as flat pieces. And this was a very fiddly job. Quite fiddly you put the stairs in on one side and then you attach the other set of stairs to them, and trying to manipulate each individual step and the top piece and get them all to line up takes a bit of patience, but it's been done and is painted. It is, as I knew it would be, it's not exactly the right height. This is going to sit on sideways, because when this is done you'll see where it goes on, but it's 4 millimeters short of reaching the ground. So I have, out of strip styrene card, just created a set of steps onto which this will land, so this becomes a landing pad for the stairs. Just painted it a grey at the moment, and I'll weather that pretty heavily once it's in, and I'll probably make a little embankment either side. There's like a hill running up to where the box is, or something like that. I'll work it out in my head eventually. So that's been done, and the lean-to at the back has now, this is just the carcass, so it's not going to end up like that, though it does have its door in, and the door has been created with simple strip styrene card, just scored to give, if I can get this in focus, oh it is, that's coming up I think, just scored to give the idea of a wooden door. That is now going to be coated to give the corrugated iron effect with this. This is left over from the coal stage kit, which is indeed a piece of corrugated foil. And, oh, I must be careful I don't flash in the camera, otherwise I'll blind you. I'll put that down. Which I now will cut. I want to go back and just check how the design looked on the original. But I think if we can cut that into strips and overlap them to give the effect of the corrugated iron, that will look quite good. And then probably paint it. I can't remember what it is in the original. I've got a vague feeling it's a rusted blue colour. But I'll see what I want to use on this. I may use that, I may do something else. But certainly gives some hint of rust. I've got rust weathering powders, which will get a bit of a run out, I think. And once that is done and those things are attached, this will be complete. So I will, in this video, I'll do all this work, and in this video I'll come back just to show it complete. And with any luck, possibly also show it complete sitting on the layout, wired in, but I don't promise that last bit. Okay, that's enough for now, and I'll come back when all this is complete and it's sitting on the layout. Welcome to 2 to Watch. This series was inspired by Chris Carter of 4 Oak Street, who mentioned in one of his videos a while ago that N-gauge channels do not get as much exposure as AA gauge channels. He was keen to mention other N-gauge channels he subscribed to, and was kind enough to mention mine. The theme was picked up by John at Exhaven Harbour, and that gave me the idea to go through my subscriber list to see just how many N-gauge channels I subscribe to, and it came out at about 32, although only about 25 or 26 of those are currently active. From this idea, 2 to Watch was born. What I intend to do in each of my videos is to mention 2 N-gauge layouts to which I am subscribed. I'll tell you a little bit about them, but I will only mention channels that are active, by which I mean that something has been put up in the last 3 to 4 months. Many channels go dormant for a while before the YouTuber returns to uploading, and I'll keep a watch on channels to see if new content appears whilst this series is running. Now, the difficulty for me was the order in which to mention the channels. The answer I came up with was to take the list, which was in alphabetical order, from my subscriber list, and give each channel a number, and then generate a random number list from 1 to 32. And that is the order in which I will mention the layouts. So let's turn to the first layout. As it happens, it's John's channel called Exhaven Harbour. John's layout is based in the South Devon area, and it's set in the late 50s to early 60s with a sort of southern region, Great Western region feel. His intention is to try and marry the railway with a dock setting. This is his first layout, and it's really great fun to watch someone starting out on the process of in a purpose-built cabin and really enjoying, along with him, the journey of the build. He started his channel I think about April and has about 9 videos, and he's making great strides. I'm really looking forward to seeing John's layout develop. I think once it's finished, in particular the marriage of the railway and the docks, it's going to look absolutely superb. So let's turn now to the second layout that I'm going to talk about today, and that's Chandwell N-Gauge Model Railway. Michael is scratch building a city viaduct. The quality of the scratch building, and the building is being done in card, is really first class, as you can probably see from the image that's on your screen now. Recently he's been using forced perspective to create some superb effects in what is a quite short space, but giving a great sense of depth. He also has just started a series on some free design software that he uses called Inkscape, which he uses to help create the templates for the scratch builds. Now, I followed the first tutorial that he did, and I was able to replicate exactly the template that he demonstrated in the tutorial. And from my point of view, this is going to be of great use for the future in designing my scratch build buildings, and then being able to produce templates to cut out all the relevant parts for the build. So I'm looking forward both to the development of his layout and his future tutorials on Inkscape. So that's the first edition of 2 to Watch. I'll put links to both channels in the description below, so you can go and look at them once you finish watching this video. One thing, as I said, I've got 32 channels. If you've got an N-Gauge layout and I don't seem to be in your subscriber list, please do let me know, because I'm more than happy to get more N-Gauge layouts to look at. I do have a very long subscriber list, but as I said, of my 300 channels that I'm subscribed to, only about 30 are for N-Gauge layouts. So tune in next time to see which are the next 2 channels in this series. Well, I thought I'd give you a chance to have a look at the rake of Thompson Teaks that arrived with me actually a couple of weeks ago now. The new Farish, I think they came out in the magazine about 2.5 years ago, and were due a bit earlier this year, but obviously with the COVID thing has held it up. They really are exquisite models, as you'll see from this section that I've taken using the gimbal just to go along the rake of 8 coaches. They are beautiful, beautifully modelled things. I don't usually do unboxings and reviews, but I am really very pleased with these, and I think they've sold pretty swiftly already. So, but to give you a chance to see an A1 pulling a rake of Thompson Teaks, and just a very short section, just to give you an idea of the latest additions to Elvenhome. So now let's return to the build of the signal box as this brief interlude. And so you can see the completion of the work of the signal box and its installation up at High Elven. Well, as promised, we've come back just before it goes on the layout. I just thought I'd show you this, because once it's on the layout you won't be able to see the back quite so well. This is the box completed. So its roof is sitting on, the lights are in there and they're wired through. I've just got to do the soldering, which I shall do shortly. The stairs have now been added together with the little ramp, and that's a bit springy, so it's standing up, but once that's stuck down, That will provide the stairs up to the box. My attempts at weathering, actually I'm not, well, it's not too bad. I think they're not too bad. And then at the back we have the lean-to, which I think has come out rather well. I'm quite pleased with that. It's got the idea that it's all corrugated and rather dilapidated and seen better days. And I hope if I didn't pull the roof off. So this box is now finished and is ready to go on the layout. So let's, with the magic of video, put it on the layout. Well, there you are. You can see the signal box on the layout with its light on, and I'm really very pleased with it. I think it looks lovely there. So thanks very much to Paul Chapman at Elvenhome Hall for the design. I've had great fun building this, and if you need a signal box on your layout, I really do suggest you go over to his website. There's a link website to his YouTube channel. There's a link in the description below to the first of the series of videos that he did to build his signal box, and the plans that I drew down off of the Elvenhome Hall Facebook page, and I'll put a link to that also in the description below. One thing which I don't think I mentioned, my original intention had been to use the York Model Rail slates on the roof, but it just didn't work. It didn't work in all sorts of ways. It's quite a tricky roof to put those slates to, and it just looked horrible. So it all got taken off again, and instead I used a slate grey roof paint, enamel roof paint, that I used on the coal stage originally, a couple of coats of that, and I'm just going to leave that until I think of anything better that I might put on that roof. Although I have to say I'm really quite happy as it is. I'll zoom in a bit, which will probably degrade the quality of the image unless I can get it to focus. Maybe it has. And at some point when I'm using the gimbal, I'll get a closer look so you can try and see into the windows at the lever frame and the signalman who's inside seeing the train go by. So that completes this part of the video, and indeed completes the build of the signal box, which is now operational and overseeing its duty for the safe operation of trains in and out of High Elven. Well, it's time for Tool Time Tips, and this week I thought I would focus on a range of things that I use to help me manipulate small things of one kind or another. So what do I have in front of me? Well, some of them you will easily recognise. Some of them you might wish you didn't recognise. Over on the left here are my range of tweezers. And there's a range of tweezers I've acquired over the years. I found that whatever it is you're wishing to manipulate, you can almost guarantee that your pair of tweezers will either be too big, or the wrong angle, or the wrong type, to enable you to manipulate what you want to do. Most tweezers, as you'll know, operate on the simple principle of being sprung metal, and you put pressure on to close the ends of the tweezer to hold the thing that you want to do. But there will be occasions when you need these to work the opposite way around, which is what these ones do. So they're sprung to remain closed until you squeeze them apart. Now this is helpful if you're trying to manipulate something into a tight space, where keeping the pressure on the tweezers is difficult, but just putting a bit of pressure to release once you've got the thing there is an easier thing to do. In the middle, you may be surprised to see being used for scratch building a dental set, which I saw in Boots the Chemist and immediately saw the potential for scratch building. It defeats me why anybody would buy these things to use on themselves, but it appears they do. The first of them here is actually a plaque scraper. So if you prefer not to have to sit in the dentist's chair while he or she gives you a scale and polish, you can give yourself your own hygienist appointment by scraping away at your teeth with one of these. However, equally, I find it much better for manipulating small objects and generally teasing things to go into spaces they don't want to go into very easily. This is an inspection probe. It has a very sharp point on it. It's unbunged many tubes of glue, but is pretty good for picking up small bits of paper and for getting into crevices if you need to clean them out. I was using it on the A4, which I'm needing to do some work. And the inspection mirror is just useful as an inspection mirror. This group here I bought when I was using Milliput for the first time, and they're a set of sculptor's tools, and indeed they were extremely useful for fashioning and moulding the Milliput when I was building the War Memorial. They've been equally useful for applying and fitting the plastic putty, which I showed you I think a couple of editions ago, and for smoothing that. And finally, they are very good at being able to manipulate things into place. And the range of angles and shapes that they are makes them a really useful thing for, I've found, for manipulating things you wouldn't expect to do. The final thing here, which I bought only recently, let's take this off, probably at Wally, I think. I've been meaning to get one for a while. It's meant for picking up small, light objects. As you can see, there's a green thing at the end. That's a small piece of very sticky, I'm not sure whether it's rubber or plastic. And it is extremely useful at picking up small objects, particularly paper and card, and helping you mainly to be able to pick them up and then move them around. It's not as good, I've found, for manipulating things into place. Partly because it is sticky, but it's not very sticky. So on the occasions when I've tried to use it to manipulate something into place, it has always dropped it before it got where it was intended to go. But for actually being able to pick it up off the desk, it's extremely useful. So that pretty much completes this edition of Tool Time Tips. The next edition of Tool Time Tips will be the last. I have now, I think, shown you all the tools I use for scratch building, or rather specifically for scratch building. I have, as I've said, the normal range of other tools that I use from time to time. I did promise a few editions back to talk about the Dremel router that I bought to cut the groove for the inspection pit at High Elven Engine Shed, and that will be the subject of the next Tool Time Tips. After that, it's possible that Tool Time Tips will appear as an occasional series, but there'll be no more regular ones after that edition. So with that, and in anticipation of seeing the router next time around, that brings this edition of Tool Time Tips to an end. Well, I hope you enjoyed that edition of Elvenhome, and particularly completion of the work on the signal box, which I'm really pleased to have completed. And thanks again to Paul for the design. As I said in various parts of this one, there are links in the description below the video on the YouTube page to both the channels that I've mentioned, to Paul's channel for Cairngorm Hall, and I think to its Facebook page as well, if I remember to put all the links in. So that pretty much wraps it up for this edition. In the next edition, I'll give you a sneak peek. I recently bought some Petite Properties models, that's the first of them. I'm hoping that's getting it in focus, which I've completed. I'm holding the roof on because it allows me to fit lighting, and I haven't quite got to that point yet, which also includes, and I'll give you another quick look, a different approach to putting slates on top of the roof, which was given to me by a subscriber, and I finally managed to get hold of the thing. So if you want to know what all of those is, you will have to tune in next time. If you've liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, well, please do subscribe. Click the bell notification and choose all so you know when I'm uploading. And of course, if you have any comments, please do let me have the comments. I really enjoy getting the comments. I try to get back as quickly as I can, and I always try and make sure I reply, unless YouTube does a strange thing and quarantines your comment, which it will do, I promise you, if you talk about subscribing or me subscribing to you, or if you put a hyperlink in it. That it thinks is spam, and YouTube dislikes subs for subs. Oh dear. Maybe I'll get quarantined now. Anyway, until the next video, I'll say bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.